Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Everyday Strong with Dr. Michael G. Daniels. This is your host, C.D. Baker. Dr. Daniels, you hit me with a topic which is, I think will resonate for everybody, is living your best life as a Christian. And when you texted to me, I said, you know what? As I was telling my wife, I said, the ironic thing is, once you get married, if you are generally a good person, right, and let's say you're not a psychopath or you don't know right from wrong, you're going to generally fall within the guidelines of things once you're married. If you're not having out of marriage sex, and if you don't generally lie to people, you're good to people.
Right.
So I was like, okay, but a lot of people probably don't realize that they most likely are already living a really good life as a Christian and don't think that way.
Right. Well, you're right. Now, I'll say it a different way. I think whether you're married or single, most people, when you look at being single, the thing that they look at as being not living as a Christian is fornication.
Right.
Right. That's kind of what they look at. But let's say if you but that doesn't mean you're living your best life just because you don't fornicate.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're not living as a Christian either.
Right.
Because you could be still lying, you still could be being deceptive, all those other things. As a married person, you may not be fornicating because you're married, but that doesn't mean you're happy.
Right.
So when I say, and this is my thinking, to me, living your best life is enjoying life. I think that's what I'm looking at, is how can we enjoy life and still show the world we are Christians. I think that's the key thing, because when you think about, most people feel like, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of people look at being a Christian as being a boring life. That's people who are not saved, or people who grew up in an environment where there were all these don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. When I grew up, there were so many things you were not supposed to do. I walked away from the church, because of that. So, and that's the context, I guess, is what I'm looking at, is how do I live a life that's fulfilling? How do I live a life where I'm still getting joy? How do I live a life where I'm feeling fulfilled as an individual, but people still view my lifestyle as that is one that represents God everywhere I go? I think that's kind of the focus of what I'm looking at. How do we make that happen?
Yeah. Because, the funny thing is, it's like when you're young and you're flipping through the TV. Back in the day, remember that channel? It used to be this nun that sat on TV and all she did was talk, and it was the same monotone voice. And then if you as a kid on Sunday morning, you hit them TV preachers and they're always this monotone and it's all this boring. And I think a lot of that has to do, for me anyways, it's setting in myself like when you go to church, and if you go to one of them churches that have the 3-hour services, as a kid, is what? Boring.
It's boring.
It's like, what? I do not want to be here. Give me somewhere where it's fun. And then as you get older, if you're not continuing going to church, you end up going to church for what? Funerals.
Right.
So it's like now it's sad. It's like, Pastor, where is the marketing team at for the church to get the real fun stuff that happens at church that really don't get out there?
Yeah. And, you're right. Church is not always viewed as a place of celebration, and that's really what church ought to be, and that's the key. So that falls on the leadership, because that's the reason why we come ought to be to celebrate our salvation and to celebrate God as our Heavenly Father, and to worship Him. And that should be a celebratory atmosphere always. And anytime we'll celebrate, and that's a good thing, and that helps us to feel that joy. I think a part of what, we don't often do as individuals is that if I'm going to live my best life, is I have to determine what my best life is. And I guess that's a key thing, because once you become an adult, then, as you mentioned earlier, there are two dynamics that I have to ask myself. One is, is living my best life being married, or is living my best life being single? And that's a clear distinction. And for some people, they're not really clear about that. They start out married, end up single, and vice versa, because they find that they prefer one or the other. Well, the Bible actually puts it in both perspectives. For example, in Genesis, the Bible says, God says that it is not good for man to live alone, right? And so therefore he created a helpmeet, a female, so that he would not be alone, because we are creatures that tend to, we are social creatures. You know, we want someone in our life. But in addition to that, Jesus made a statement. He says some are born eunuchs and some are eunuchs by choice, which, you know, some people are celibate because that's where they want to be in life. Right. And some are celibate because that is their lot in life. And so he says, he that has an understanding, let him understand. So Jesus' point is that there are some people who will be celibate or will be single. Paul says, Paul kind of puts it, you know, on the table in a different way. Paul says that if you're going to serve God, he said he wished that everyone could be like him, which was to not have a person in your life, a significant other, because then you have to make a choice. You know, do I commit myself to serving God, or do I commit myself to serving my spouse? And that's a difficult thing to do, because oftentimes, you know, your spouse kind of wins over. You know, and if you put God first, sometimes your spouse is mad. So, but Paul also says that it is better to marry than to burn. If you cannot contain yourself, if you cannot divorce yourself from the idea of being sexually active, he says, you need to go ahead and get married, because you don't want to sit around and be lusting after folk and that kind of thing. So those are the dynamics that you have to look at. You know, we had a workshop a week ago, and I was expressing this to some of the people, that the first thing you have to do is you have to get to know who you are, and under which one of those umbrellas are you willing to deal with. I think a huge problem is that most people are not willing to face the truth about who they are. You know,
I agree.
And if you can't face the truth about who you are and be honest with yourself, then you really can't determine where you ought to be, you know, in that group. You know, should I be married or should I be single? Right. And there are some single people that ought to be married, and there are some married people that ought to be single. Right.
And we all know some people out there that's married but acting like they're single. You know. And we also know some people that are single on paper and living like they're married. Right.
Yeah. And even if you're not living that way, in your heart, that's your desire. You know? Right. So if I'm single, but in my heart, I really do want to be married. But I keep telling people, no, I'm fine being single. I'm fine. It's just me and my Jesus. And that's how I want it to be. Right. But the reality is, it's not just me and my Jesus. I want to be married. I just can't find somebody. Right. Nobody wants to marry me. Right. You know. And so you're walking around not living your best life because you haven't been honest with yourself. So if you're not honest with yourself that you really do want to be married, you don't make the changes so you can get married. You know, because there's some personal things you probably need to change about your life if no one is finding you as marriage material. Right. But you got to be honest with yourself first of all and say, right. You can't keep saying, well, I just really don't want to be married. I'm just fine. And if you are married and you know that I'm not advocating anybody get divorced. Let me say that up front. I'm not advocating anyone to get a divorce. Right. But I'm saying that there are some people who are married that really should not have gotten married. They got married for the wrong reasons. So, you know, before you go into marriage, you have to be honest with yourself. Why am I really getting married? Am I getting married for financial stability? You know, why am I really getting married? Why am I marrying this person? Because getting married is not the answer to all problems. No, you know, it's not. Am I getting married because I feel that there's something missing in my life and I want someone to make me happy? You know, just because you get married doesn't mean you're going to get happy, because people don't make you happy. You have to be happy yourself. And that's why I'm saying that, to me, that's the first step, is you really have to ask yourself, what is the truth about me? You know, do I want to be married? Do I want to be single? You know, where do I fit? And then once you fit and you figure that out, there's some things you have to do, you know. And that is, let's say you want to be married, for example. If I know that living my best life is, I want to be married, I want 2, 3 kids, you know, that's the arrangement I want, but I can't find somebody, that I decide that, that is that's the person that works for me. I have to ask myself and be honest with myself and say, why is it I cannot find that person? Or why I cannot stay in meaningful relationships?
Right.
What is it about me? See, we tend to always want to blame other people.
Mm-hmm.
We want to blame the guy or the girl for cheating on us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't ask ourselves, why are they cheating on us? What is it about me that every time I get in a relationship with somebody, they're cheating on me?
Right.
Or why am I divorced through 3 or 4 or 5 times?
Mm-hmm.
What is it about me? You gotta be honest with yourself. And I tell people that one thing you have to do is that you have to position yourself so that you are not just a taker, but you are also a giver. Because if I can't find someone, it's because no one is looking at me as a prospective mate. And no one looks at me as a prospective mate if I have nothing to offer. Mm-hmm. So the first thing you have to do is we have to, in order for us to get to that point, we got to make ourselves such that we project an image that we have something to offer. If I'm trying to get hooked up.
Right.
If I'm not trying to get hooked up, then I have to position myself so that I can be happy by myself.
Right. And I think you make a very good point on a lot of people not knowing themselves and not even putting forth the effort to really know themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they put themselves in a situation to where they get married and be like, whoa, this is not what I really wanted. I'm not feeling this.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you not? Then you got to say, okay, you've already committed, so why are you not feeling this?
Mm-hmm.
And then asking the difficult questions. Mm-hmm. And then understanding that you may not like the answer, but
mm-hmm.
you got to get the answer anyway.
Right.
And especially if you're married, you got to ask that to your spouse. Mm-hmm. Ask the difficult questions. Are you happy? Or say, I believe I'm not happy because X, Y, Z. I don't know how that conversation will go. It could go either way, but you got to have the conversation, especially with yourself. Now, we always say you need to have self-reflection when you get out of high school, you go off into college, and then, especially if you go away for college, you start to find things about yourself. Back in the day, Pastor, when I was in college, I didn't know what a Piggly Wiggly was, right? And I never forget, I pulled up, I said, what's this supermarket? I had $20. Boy, when I found out Piggly Wiggly was cheap, I said, boy, I said, yes. And I found out I like chocolate milk, but the chocolate milk was too high. They had another thing in there called chocolate drink. That's what it was called, chocolate drink. So you realize, okay, I don't like chocolate drink. I really like chocolate milk. This may sound so simple, but knowing that about yourself, it's like, you know what? I don't like discounted stuff. So that means I can't be with another person who that's all they want is discounted stuff. It's like, it's one thing to be okay with it. It's a whole nother thing that for me to be like, I'm gonna go to the store and this is what we're gonna drink. I'd be like, oh no, but I know that about myself. How many other people have went through that process of recognizing, hey, I don't like Burger King, I like McDonald's better, or I like Wendy's better, or like going through that process of understanding why they like the stuff. And then they're able to really find that spouse that's on the same wavelength as them.
Or even if I think some people, even if they do go through the process, I tell you, I don't think most people like to be honest with themselves about what they find out about themselves. See, it's one thing to do a self-assessment, but it's one thing to be honest about the results of the self-assessment. For example, is that people don't like to admit they're ignorant.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't mean, and people, when you think of ignorant, they look at it as being such a bad thing. We know that ignorant just means I lack information.
Right.
I lack
you don't know.
Right. I don't know.
Right.
People don't like to admit they don't know stuff.
Yeah.
But you got to be honest with yourself. If take finances for example, there are people who don't like to admit they don't understand finances. They don't understand simple stuff like the difference between an annuity, for example, a fixed annuity or an equity annuity. Simple stuff like that. They don't understand life insurance. and understand them in whole life and term life. And when you know, what are the advantages and disadvantages? I mean, just simple stuff. And if you don't, it's difficult to live my best life if I walk around saying I know what I don't know.
Right.
Because then I make bad decisions. It's difficult to live my best life if I keep fooling myself about what my best life is. Because there's some people that accept less than their best life because they don't want to be honest that they are not living their best life.
Right.
You know, you get me, like again, a person that lives, let's say, in what we would call an impoverished neighborhood, right? You don't really want to be in that neighborhood.
All right.
But you're in that neighborhood because your credit may not be the best, or your job may not have the income coming in. But you tell yourself, I'm here because, I'm not going to walk away like other folk did. I'm going to make the neighborhood better by staying. But then you got to ask yourself, well, what are you doing to make the neighborhood better?
Right.
How is the neighborhood really better because you stayed in it, right?
Right.
If the neighborhood isn't better because you stay in it, you just lied to yourself. Now, if you're in the neighborhood, let's say, and you're the chairman of the Civic League, and the Civic League is cleaning the neighborhood up, if they're helping to fight crime, and have them doing all that kind of stuff, then you are benefiting the neighborhood.
Right.
If you're not benefiting the neighborhood, and you're really not contributing, so why are you really there? You gotta be honest with yourself. There are people who, for example, aren't honest about how they feel about themselves. Mm-hmm. Looking in the mirror, know that what they see is not what they want.
Right.
But they won't be honest with themselves and say, that ain't what I want, right? Mm-hmm. And then they'll get mad if someone else acknowledges it, And I guess that's what I'm saying. Be honest. You gotta be honest with yourself. If there's something about you that you don't find pleasing, you gotta be honest about it. If you're not where you want to be economically, you gotta be honest about it. If you're not where you want to be socially, you gotta be honest about it. Then you have to set, as you say this all the time. Once I make that assessment, then I gotta say, well, how do I get from where I am, right, to where I want to be?
Where you want to be. That's right.
I gotta start setting some goals and setting some milestones and get a strategic plan in place. No matter what it is, I have to start doing something to get there. Because if I do nothing, I won't get there. I'll be dead, and I will never live my best life.
Right.
If you don't want to be at McDonald's, you can't just keep saying that. Well, I'm happy being the assistant manager here. Nothing wrong with being an assistant manager there.
Right.
Nothing wrong with being a janitor. My father told me this a long time ago. He said, listen, somebody has to pick up the trash. Somebody has to sweep the floor. Somebody has to cut the grass. He said, so no matter what job you have, two things. One, make sure you're the best at it. Mm-hmm. Secondly, make sure you're doing it because you want to do it, not because you have to do it.
Right.
Yeah. If you enjoy picking up the trash, and then that's your best life, pick up trash until you retire.
Right.
But don't sit there picking up trash and lying to yourself and say, oh, I enjoy picking up the trash, when you know you don't.
Right.
Set a goal, move forward, do what needs to be done.
The one thing that I encourage everybody to do is go places where affluent people live. Mm-hmm. Drive around and look at stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I want you, while you're driving around and you're looking, or you're going to the little celebrity tour and when you're out in Los Angeles, or if you're in Miami, then you realize something.
Or Virginia Beach.
You're right. But then you realize something, mm-hmm. that those people get up just like you. Mm-hmm. They got the same 24 hours just mm-hmm. like you. Mm-hmm. They're no different than you. Mm-hmm. Now, they had other things that they did, opportunities opened up for them, but they was there mm-hmm. knocking on the door. Mm-hmm. And busting through some other walls in order to get what they got, mm-hmm. right? But that tells me, when I see stuff like that, I can have it too. Mm-hmm. That's the first wake up call that I had. I never forget, and I was already a business owner. Mm-hmm. I went down to Miami and I saw what the guy who was waste management owner, right, started out with $5,000 in one truck. You know, the guy who invented Alka-Seltzer. You know, all these people houses down there. So these people they're no smarter than me. They're no more business savvy than me. I just got to keep working hard and dream bigger than what I'm already dreaming. You know, and a lot of people don't do that. They get stuck. Well, you know, my family came from the hood. I grew up here. You know, such and such made it out. You know, playing football. I ain't that good, so I'm just gonna be stuck here. It's like, no, first off, there's so many different avenues out of the hood. It's not even, it's crazy to even think. It's actually, everybody should be out of the hood. And then I'm gonna tell you something else too, is wherever you at, you make whatever you have. So the hood don't have to be the hood. You can change it overnight. You know, I can't tell you how many houses I've been in the projects. When I walked through the door, I feel like I was in Taj Mahal. Because some people houses, they were like, you know what? You got flat screens, you got all the, it's nice, neat, it doesn't have to look bad.
Sure.
So, and the neighborhoods look nice. You know, so it's just, some of it is mindset.
Well, that's why I say living your best life is not living someone else's life, you know.
Right.
It's living your best life. And that's why I go back to, you gotta be honest with yourself. You know, like you said, you know, you don't have to go to Miami to see $1, $2, $3, $4, $5, $10 million homes.
Yeah.
Right. You can go Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
You drive right through some neighborhoods in Virginia Beach, and you'll see rows of homes where they have butlers and maids, and you know, it's a common thing.
Right.
If you want to really see some wealthy homes, you can drive up to Fairfax County, Virginia, because statistically, they have more millionaires in Fairfax County than any other place in the United States of America. So this place is teeming with people with money.
Right.
You know, teeming with people with money. The thing is, you know, from my perspective is, I can't live Donald Trump's life.
Right.
You know, I mean, I can't live Donald Trump's life. And Donald Trump might not even be happy.
Right.
And I think that's the thing I stress with people. That's why, you know, to me, it's, what is your best life? I compare my life to my father. You know, I recall one day, I'm visiting my dad. I've probably been out of college maybe like 4 or 5 years. And so, you know, my undergrad is finance. So I'm talking to my father and I say, Dad, you ought to buy that piece of land beside your house. He says, why? I said, it's a good investment. And he says, well, why should I buy it?
Right.
I said, because it's a good investment. Then if you buy it, you're going to have a piece of land. Once people start coming through here and you sell it, you probably double your money. He said, well, if it's such a good investment, why don't you buy it?
Right.
And I said, well, because I have some investments. I thought you might want to buy it. He said, let me explain something to you. My house is paid for. My car is paid for.
Right.
My boat is paid for. What do I need more money for? See, he was letting me know something. I'm living my best life.
Right.
So I could get more, but all it would give me is more problems, and I don't want more problems.
Right.
I want what I have.
That's right.
Because
That's
I'm
right.
living my best life. See, he was honest with himself, and he was honest enough to know that, hey, this is what gives me the pleasure that I have. You know, was it a big house? Oh, no. Small house now.
Right.
Granted, small house. Was it a big boat? No. Small bass boat.
Right.
Right? Did he have a Jaguar? No.
Right.
You know, he had an Oldsmobile. But that was, to him was, you know what? I'm just as happy as I can be. That's what, to me, that Christians ought to be asking, you know, looking for, is saying, what is that lifestyle that gives me joy? What is that lifestyle that makes me happy? If it is living in a 4,000 square foot house, then you got to make that move. You can't tell yourself that I'm comfortable living in an apartment when you know you're not.
Right.
Make the move. But if it is living in the 1,200 square foot home, then don't
Right.
get a 3,000 square foot home to make somebody else happy.
Right.
Because then you're going to be miserable.
That's right.
You know, that's what I'm saying. I say you got to be honest with yourself. You know, if you are single, right, And you cannot let other people, like oftentimes women especially, and sometimes guys too, are comfortable being single, but because of what their friends are doing, they want something different. All your girlfriends got married. You know, you the bridesmaid at all their weddings. So now that pressure's on you to get married, when really you don't want to get married.
Right.
But because of all that pressure, you go ahead and you do it anyway. You know.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, parents can pressure children into having kids. You know, like, you know, love my wife dearly, but she keeps pressuring my son. You know, and he keeps saying, Mom, I don't want to have kids.
Right.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. He says, no, I don't. And she keeps saying, yes, you do.
Right.
Well, there's some people that pressure, they will have kids because their parents want to be grandparents, you know. But that's no reason to have kids because your parents want to be grandparents.
Right.
But that's what people will do. They'll take the pressure from other people and they'll make it their goals, and now they're miserable. And you got to be honest. That's what I'm saying. To me, the key is to know yourself. You know, when you know yourself and be honest with yourself, and let other people know, hey, if that's where I want to go, if I don't want children, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no law that says you have to have 2.5 kids.
Right.
You know, if you want to live in an apartment till you die, there's no law that says you have to buy a house. But if you want to live in a big house, don't lie and say you're comfortable living in Tidewater Bar.
Right.
And you know you're in a waterfront home in Virginia Beach.
Right.
You know,
right.
do what you got to do to get there.
Yeah, you're right. Knowing what you really want, setting the goals to get there, and then putting forth the actions to get there.
Right.
And then another part that I think a lot of people kind of miss when they see successful stories is there was a lot of people that helped those people get there.
Sure.
You're not going to be able to do it alone. You know, especially, you know, to live your best life, I would say you almost need some type of help in some way to get there. Like once you announce what it is that you want, like really truly want, you're going to need some help to get there.
Absolutely. You need help getting there, and you need help staying there. And I'll tell you why I say staying there. We are social beings. That's our makeup. God did not design us to be alone. So, you know, we need people around us. You know, we need to form social groups, social bonds. And so as a child of God, I want to form those social bonds with people that are like-minded. You know, the Bible says that, you know, how can two walk together unless we agree, right? And that means that if I'm going to live my best life as a Christian, and you know, I'm trying to keep that as a forefront. As a Christian, I have to develop social bonds with like-minded people who have Christian values. Now that don't mean people like to sit home all day. If that ain't where I'm at, that ain't what I want to do. But if I know I like sports, for example, then I need to you know, get in a group of Christians that also like sports, so we can, you know, go to games together or play sports together, or, you know, whatever. You want to, and it doesn't mean it has to be the same person all the time, you know, because I may have one group over here that we like to bowl together, and that's that group. I may have one group that likes to scuba dive together. I may have one group that likes to travel. I may have one group that likes comedy, you know. But we are social beings, because even once I acquire, let's say, those tangible items, if I don't have a social structure, I still want to enjoy it.
Right.
You know, excuse me. So, you know, just as you pointed out, we need support to get there, and we need support to stay there. We need support so I don't walk away from a Christian value just to get some happiness. You know, for example, if you're married, you know, if you think of a non-Christian value as a married person cheating, you think of a non-Christian value as a single person, you know, fornicating.
Right.
Right. Well, if I'm hanging around the wrong group and I'm single, some fornicating gonna happen, because you know that physical desire will take over.
Right.
Same thing when you're married. If you hang around the wrong group, something to happen. You don't have to act on it for something to happen. You know, the Bible, Jesus said, if I lust with my heart, I've done it already. So if I'm hanging around the wrong group, lust gonna take place, envy gonna take place. Those kind of things are gonna come up.
Right.
So you want that social structure that helps you to continue your Christian walk and give you the support that you need so you can be fulfilled.
So basically what you're saying, in order to live your best life, after you've done some self-reflection and understand what you really need and what you want, is the next step finding the right environment for you to flourish and to get to live your best life.
Absolutely. That's key right there. You must have read Matthew and Mark.
So it's, you know, the funny thing is we all hear on social media and things that people say, you know, birds of the same feather flock together, and then you see, sometimes you see a picture of a chicken trying to hang with the eagles to learn how to fly. And sometimes you just got to do that. Recognize that you are a chicken, but I want to fly like the eagle, and I'm gonna hang with the eagles in order to get there. Right. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's like understanding where you're at right now, but know where you want to be, and then now, okay, let me change my environment. Yeah. There was a guy that he gave me some great advice. He said, CB, he said, do you know why I go to this particular part of town, to this bar? I said, why? So, you know, there's plenty of bars around here in my neighborhood, but this other bar, even though it's more expensive, the drinks are $15 to $20 a drink. I go there because other people are there paying $15 to $20 a drink. They have money. I work in sales. I'm trying to sell my product to people with money. And then this particular place, it was a where people commute in to work. You know how you have this hotel set up, like, you know, people coming in. So he knew he was going to get a lot of different people in network. He had a purpose of what he was trying to do. Could he get it where he was living at? No. So he said, okay, I got to go here to get it. It's all about changing your environment. And quite honest with you, I highly suggest to all my brothers out there, go get you a nice sports coat, nice button-down shirt, and just go sit in certain areas, and you'd be amazed how your life just starts changing just by you just being present.
Right. Well, I'm gonna say this now. It depends. See, a sports coat don't necessarily mean it's your best life. That's the point I'm making.
Right. Well, I'm talking about if you're trying to go that direction.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. See, and that's why I'm saying you gotta be honest with yourself. And I just want everybody in listening to I don't want them to get a false bravado about themselves, because that can be a miserable life. I'm saying. Right. For example, when I worked with the federal government, I was a senior manager. Okay, traveled all the time, right? Wore suits, all that kind of stuff. It was miserable. That was not living my best life. Even though I had a great, what some would call a great position.
Right.
Even though I was traveling, all the time, flying, getting frequent flyer miles. Even though I was eating at the best restaurants, because Lord knows I was using that government per diem. Eating at the best restaurants, staying in the finest hotels. I guess that's what I'm saying is that, but that wasn't my best life.
Right.
As a matter of fact, when I decided to leave the federal government, my wife, she frowned on it. And she said, I can't believe you're going to walk away, because I was, relatively young. I was, 48 I was 47 when I decided to retire. Actually, I was 47 when I decided to retire, and I turned 48, a couple of months later.
Right.
So I'm 47 and I'm putting my retirement papers. And she's like, you got to be crazy. Why would you do? Why now? You're at the pinnacle of your success. You got. I had an office in Norfolk. I had an office in Maryland, in Germantown, Maryland. Office in Norfolk, office in Maryland, and an office at home. I had the option to work in either one of those places that I wanted to, in Norfolk, in my home, or in Germantown. And I would go between the three. Government paying for the whole thing. She says, well, why would you leave? If you want to be home, just work from home. And I was saying, no, I'm not happy. And I guess that's the point I want people to understand. You have to be honest with yourself and say, what really makes you happy? Are you happy because you have an office job? I wasn't.
Right.
Are you happy because you drive a truck? I don't know. Are you happy because you are a nurse? If you're going to live your best life, you got to do what brings you joy not what mama thought, not what daddy thought. And many of us spend our whole lives not happy. And then we retire and wish we had did it differently.
So after you retired, and I'm assuming you became at that point a full-time job pastor as a
I was
church.
full-time pastor before I retired.
Before you retired.
Yeah.
So when did the light bulb go off for you that you basically was truly living your best life when you was pastoring the church after you had retired?
For me, I would say one day, I may have mentioned this on another podcast. What made me realize I was not living my best life and how it would take me to get to my best life was I was sitting in my office looking out at the Elizabeth River, and it was about 78 degrees outside. Perfect day. And there was a song that came on the radio. And basically what the song was about was how the children of Israel complained all the time God was leading them to their promised land. And it was like, you all are complaining all the trip when you're getting exactly what you asked him for. Mm-hmm. And the closer you get to the promised land, the more you seem to be complaining. And it dawned on me is that I'm unhappy, just like they were unhappy.
Right.
It dawned on me that I'm unhappy. So I asked myself, why are you unhappy? It's not like you don't do what you want to do. There's no one right here managing you. My manager was in Washington, D.C. They didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And they were pleased with what I was doing. And at that point, the people that were under my supervision were not local to me. Some were in Washington and some were in other states. So they didn't want to see me. I didn't want to see them.
Right.
So, but I wasn't happy. I just wasn't happy. And so I had to ask myself, well, why are you doing it? You know, what is it about this position that you won't let go of it? I had to be honest with myself about that. You know, and that's the thing, is that, you know, is more money making you happy? Is it? Some people want money for the sake of having money. I get that. The question is it making you happy to have more money?
Right.
You know, and I was talking with someone, and he said this to me, you know, and sometimes you never know where wisdom gonna come from, because I never consider him to be a wise person.
Okay.
But he said to me, do you want money or what money can buy? And I said to myself, now you know what? That's a killer statement right there.
Right.
I really want what money can buy.
Right.
Not money. And so I asked myself, do I have security? Yeah, I had security because I had done what I need to do to have security. If I retire, will I have security? Yeah, I have security. Will I have the same income I had? No. But do I need the same income I had? No. And even with that income, am I happy? No. I hated traveling. I'm gonna tell you, I hated traveling. I hated living most of my life in hotels. I hated being in restaurants all the time. I didn't like it, but I'm doing it, you know, and I'm telling people, oh, I love it. You know, I'm telling people, oh yeah, you know, I was in Portland, Maine, you know, or I was in Seattle, Washington. While I was out there, man, I went to see the game. I played, you know, because I was going to sporting events while I was traveling. So I'm telling people I'm having a great time. But truth of the matter is, I go back to the hotel, and I'm just as miserable as I can be. I'm in a hotel, I'm lonely, I'm by myself, and I'm miserable. But you would never know it talking to me, you know.
Right.
And so I wanted to be home with my kids, you know, because they were still young at that time. I wanted to be home with them. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to be home with my wife, and it just wasn't there for me. So, I mean, I'm just saying, even when I came back, and retired, and I'm with my kids. Now, that don't mean there wasn't some time when I wasn't like, you know what, I wish I was back on the road. But
you remember the football player Keith Jackson for Oklahoma? He had, this is back when he was doing TBS used to cover college football, and he was analysis up there, and he was at one of the games, and I overheard him saying, he's like, Lord, I miss playing in the NFL. And the guy's like, why? Because it was the whole season I wasn't home. And now when I'm retired, I'm always home. And now I didn't realize how much my wife got on my nerves. I wish I could go back and play. It reminded me when you said, it reminded me of him saying that. It's funny because you're right about like when you're traveling, if you're traveling, you're not with your family, you say, okay, what am I going to do? Now I got to eat up some time. Like, okay, after you did the work, you did your 9 to 5, and you're like, okay, I got this money. And now you part of your day is the newspaper. Who's playing today? If you're in Seattle, you catch the Supersonics game or the Mariners game. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go watch a game that I don't care about. Just to give me something.
Just something to do.
Something to do.
And you by yourself.
Right.
Because it's not what you do that makes you happy. It's who you do it with that makes you happy.
Yeah.
I had season tickets to the Redskins, for example. So what?
Right.
I had season tickets to the Mystics and to the Wizards. But I'm sitting there by myself. Yeah, I mean, again, I got to know the people that sat in my section.
Right.
Because, you see them every game, and we talk and we laugh and we joke. It ain't the same as having someone with you that you care about.
Right.
And that was the thing. So sometimes I would drive from D.C. back here, pick up, my family, and drive back up there, and then bring them back.
Right.
And then sometimes I would come home on Friday, drive back up to D.C. on Saturday so my family could be with me for a game, bring them back home, go to church, and then go back on Monday morning.
Yeah.
Things like that. So I guess that's why I'm saying we need that social group. We need that. So you find a social sphere that brings you joy. And that way, when you are doing something, you have someone with you that you can enjoy it with. And I'm just saying, from a Christian standpoint, you want to get that person that helps you continue your Christian walk. Because I could have, granted, there were people all around me that were not Christians.
Right.
There were people all around me, like, because I'm in my 40s, and like I was an old guy,
Right.
I'm in my late 30s, I'm in my early 40s, and I got great seats, so you don't know my job.
Right.
Because I got great seats. Now I'll tell you all how I got great seats.
Right.
It's real simple. One day I'm at the Wizards game, and I'm in the 400 level. And I'm complaining. I'm going up the stairs, and I say to the person, I say, I can't see from up here. I'm just playing. I'm joking with the person showing you your seats. And she says to me, well, you really can't see from up here? And I said, no. I said, they look like ants to me. And she says to me, well, go to special services, and I will radio down there. And I said, oh, okay.
Right.
I go to special services, I get down there, they put me in the 100 section. And the lady says to me, sir, all you have to do is say you have a visual handicap. I said, oh, okay. She said, now normally you have to pay for that section,
Right.
but you still get the special seats in that section. She said, but I'm not going to charge you extra. And I said, okay, well, I got season tickets. She said, I know.
Right.
So I got 100 level seats. I'm sitting so close. If somebody when the court gets slapped, the sweat hits me in the face. Right. Boom. So I had great seats. So I'm down there with the monkey monks. I'm sitting in this. Again, that's how things were going. My seats were so close down. I think I mentioned this before, that time Redskins starting quarterback, his seats were behind me. That's how close I am to the floor. Okay, I'm sitting there, talking with the announcers. Were there people around there trying to talk to me? Yeah. If I had hung out with some of them guys, you know what? You would have not known I was the pastor of a church.
Right.
Because that's not where they was at.
Right.
But so that's why I'm saying you got to find that social group that matches where you are as a Christian, so that you can enjoy things as a Christian, so people can still see you as a Christian. And when you get that social spirit, it changes it, because we are social beings. We love being around social people. If I'd have hung around with some of those guys, it wouldn't have been pretty.
Right.
I wouldn't have been able to see. I'd have been so much wet, wasted, because in that section, they constantly, you have waiters that constantly bring you stuff.
Right.
And everybody's like, hey, you want a drink? You want a drink?
Right.
They don't care. It's constant. But I mean, I was not accepting it, but I'm just saying, because I had already told people, I'm the pastor of a church. not because I'm trying to be hypocritical, but because I don't want my good to be evil spoken of.
Right.
And as a Christian, that's the position you want to always be in. So that's, so I can live my best life, but live it as a Christian, so I don't hurt somebody else's best life.
Right.
If I'm up there and the cheerleader walking by, and they're nice looking cheerleaders, the cheerleader walks by, and I go, whoa,
Right.
boy, she sure look good, right? And I done told the guy beside me,
Right.
I'm the pastor of a church. Now,
Right. I get it.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's, let me be honest right now, that if I'm sitting beside you, just tell him you want the drink and pass it to me. See, one thing about me, Pastor, I'm real with everybody, and all the deacons know. Like, I'm always gonna tell it like it is from my perspective, right? And yes, if the cheerleader walk by, I will be able to make the comment for you and be like, whoa. Now, granted, if Sherry, my wife, is sitting beside me, I probably won't say anything, but I will, like some of the old cats, I will fill my eyeballs up. So, but I'm real, and that's what we're really talking about here is knowing yourself and knowing how you are and accepting that. It's like that's how it is. Now if we're sitting in a whole row of pastors and then you bring me along, I'm not going to sit there and accept the drinks. I would be like, no, I'm not going to embarrass you like that. It'd be a whole different ball game. Sure. So, but you know how I am. So, man, this is a great podcast. I think this episode is really going to help a lot of people out internally. Like when you're sitting there and you're like, you know what, Pastor CB is right. I need to really own this. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You are you, and be you.
And be happy.
Right.
Be happy with you and understand you are valuable, not based on what someone else says you ought to be. You're valuable because of how God made you. And so if that's where you are, be happy with where you are, if that's where you want to be.
Where you want to be. And then the things that you don't like about yourself, you can change them.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Pastor. And thank you out there. And be on the lookout for the new YouTube channel. We will be coming off of the Enoch Baptist Church channel onto the Everyday Strong YouTube channel. And please stay tuned for the SoundCloud and iTunes. Subscribe there because I'm going to start uploading all of this stuff audio-wise to this platform. Thank you so much. This is your host, CB Baker. Till next time.